In today's video we're going to be finishing off the rest of the fish room. Now this video has been a long time in the making and we've finally sort of gathered all the parts that we've needed to complete it. There's been a few things that we've just needed to be able to source for a long time, we just haven't been able to. Now we've got everything, we can actually finish it off today. I guess sort of the first thing we're going to be doing is connecting up the big air pump that we got the other day to the central airline system and getting that all sorted out so that we can connect up sponge filters for this rack. And then the other thing we're going to be doing is finishing off the lighting. So we've got a whole bunch of floodlights we're going to be connecting up and making sure this big rack has lighting. And there's a few other bits and pieces, but without any further ado, we'll dive in and get started. Alright, so here's our big air pump we got the other day. It's a Resun one, does about 140 litres per minute, which is quite a good amount of air. We're going to be connecting this up, either in the cabinet or outside. Fingers crossed. These are the funny things that happen when you're building a fish room. I just realised my heater for this big display aquarium was not plugged in, and it's the middle of winter. It's pretty cold. So this is what we need to connect onto. This runs along the ceiling all around the fish room, and it'll be feeding all the sponge filters and air stones and stuff like that. So we need to connect onto this and make sure it doesn't have any kinks, because this stuff is kinky. And we've also got power in here, so this is going to be the perfect spot for this air pump. You can see here we've got the air line coming down here, and it's already got a little kink there, but that's probably alright. Like down here, it's just got like mad kinkage there. And it kind of runs down behind this tank, down a drain down in there. So I'm thinking of cutting the airline here and putting a joiner in, and probably another joiner in down here. So we'll get on to finding some joiners. I've installed all the lights now on this rack, and turns out I'm actually short one light up here and possibly even one light down there if I wanted to put a light over the sump. The way I connected everything together was with drilling into the steel and then riveting them on, which I really like how it looks. It looks pretty clean. And not only that, but it's also super strong, and it was, turns out, the easiest way to connect them onto the steel. So completed all the lighting, except for the ones that I couldn't obviously, but I will be doing them probably tomorrow once I can go to Bunnings and pick them up. Now we're going to go behind the rack and then connect them all up with this big box of power banks. Alrighty, so this is the back of the fish room. It's like open out to the bush here, and lots of spiders. But we're going to be connecting all of these power cables from the floodlights now together. Completely no idea how this is going to work. Basically just winging it and seeing what happens. One light's connected. Yeah, that fits in there. There's so many spiders in here. Not a fan. I don't even fit. Shit. Get me out. So all that lighting is on. It's done. Super exciting. Wow. That's literally all the lighting on this whole rack finally completed. And I've just connected it up with a 5-meter extension lead that goes to a switch. So basically now I can just go over to this switch and I'll put this on a timer. And I can turn everything off with a flick of a switch, on and off. So that makes everything a lot easier. I'm really happy with how it looks. Can't wait to get water in here. Now the next thing that we're going to be working on now will be cutting glass for these tanks. Now the reason I got that glass cutter is because I'm going to be dividing up these big aquariums into several smaller aquariums. So the ones on the bottom of the rack are going to be divided 3 times, so they're going to be 3 tanks. and then these two will be 2 tanks, so they'll be divided once. So we need to cut a piece of glass that can go inside of the tank, and I believe that's about 500 by 400, and we need to do that 8 times. So 1 for here, 1 for here, 1 for here, 1 for here, and then 2 for the bottom tanks. I've never cut glass in my entire life, so I've got no idea how this is going to turn out. Could be a complete disaster, but we'll give it our best shot, and we'll be siliconing those in, and then we can get some sponge filters and connect all of these up to sponge filters, and also put the control valves on every single airline dropper so that we can control the pressure of each sponge filter. Some of these tanks are pretty old, you know, upwards of 20 years old here, and the silicone, as you can see, is coming off in the corners, which is not what you want, and can cause leaks over time. So I'm going to go around and seal up some of the worst spots where the silicone is just coming off like crazy, and just give it a bit more silicone in the corners. It definitely won't hurt, and it will strengthen it. So, as you can see, we've also not only started filling up the big 6 foot here, but we've also repaired the front door. So it now closes super easily. You don't need to like freaking yeet the door to like try and open it. We've also started dividing up some of these aquariums. You can see this one here, I've put my first test divider in there and it went quite well. It's all siliconed in there, real strong. And I'm pretty happy actually with the results. We've got a couple of other panels here. This one needs to be cut to the right height, but it is cut to the right width at the moment, I believe. We've got another panel in there that just needs siliconing in, but we ran out of silicone, so we're gonna need to get some silicone from Bunnings. We also have started filling up some of the tanks in the fish room. Super exciting. Okay, so the work in the fish room for today is done because I'm now headed up to Brisbane to go hang out with Nick. And I'm also going to get some sponge filters when I'm up there so that we can finish off the central airline system and all the filtration for all of these tanks. Another thing that I ended up doing today was draining this tank down here. And I've been looking at it for so long thinking, what am I going to do with that tank? And I've decided to divide it as well. So we'll have 2 tanks down here. I guess the next time I'll be seeing you guys is when we're installing the sponge filters or something like that. Okay, so we're back from Brisbane and had an awesome time hanging out with Nick, made a bunch of cool videos, but in this giant bin here is 25 sponge filters, I believe. So we can now finish the rest of the fishing rod. So I'm super excited. Literally can't even contain myself. I just want to dive in and just freaking start putting sponge filters everywhere. Been waiting for this for a super long time. So we got 25 of them and we can put them in all the tanks now, get all the tanks going. I did also go to Bunnings and get some extra stuff for another little project. So another tube of silicone to finish off the tank dividing or any leaks. One more floodlight for under here. And another thing that I've really wanted to do for a long time with the water changes in this fish room is create a system that's a bit more automated. Now, I haven't plumbed this system right to do automatic water changes, and I'm not too worried about it, to be honest. For now, I'm just chosen to go with this setup. So I've got a 15-meter hose, which is gonna run from outside, probably around the back, through that door and through here. And this little system is pretty awesome. So I've got a gate valve, and then this side will go into the tank like that. Now it obviously won't work with these ones, but it should work with all the breeding tanks. And all I have to do is hook it over the side and turn on that tap, and I can go around filling up the fish room with this little mechanism. So this is gonna make water changes in here so much easier. And it's literally like a few parts. You just get a hose, and then you just get like a straight piece of pipe, two 90-degree angles, one tap, and then a little connector to get from the tap to the hose, and that's it. It's super simple. So we now have kind of an automatic water change system. It's automatic in the fact that we don't have to use buckets anymore. Still not exactly perfect. I think I will do automatic water changes on this at some point, but for now we'll just be using this. So we'll get into plumbing up these sponge filters. Right, so this is what I'm going to be doing. So these are the droppers that are going to feed this tank with air, and because there's so many different heights for the different levels of tanks, and there's going to be all different pressures and stuff like that, you need to put these little inline taps in there. It's also so that you can control how fast the sponge filters are working, how much flow is coming through. So we're going to put these little inline taps somewhere around here, just like that, super easy, and then you can control the flow of how much air you want. So that's the handy thing about those. So then you just plug your air line into your sponge filter, and then done. That's all I'm going to be doing, super simple. You can see a lot has been done since we've last filmed in the room, and I've sort of just went ahead and started scaping some of these aquariums in my spare time, and I've really enjoyed it, and it's something that I'm actually going to start getting into a little bit more. So turns out there's another thing that we need to do before this fish room is declared complete. You can see here we've got a massive leak on the floor, and the problem is this rack doesn't have like a fail-safe drain. So if one of the tanks gets filled up with too much water, or for some reason the pump turns off and all of the tanks drain back into the sump, there's actually a hole here, and the water just comes out that hole and just goes all over the floor. So if you accidentally overflow a tank, it's going to drain onto the floor, or if the power goes off, it's going to drain onto the floor. That's not a very good system, so we're going to go to Bunnings and see if we can get a bulkhead and maybe an angle to like shoot the water outside. So we're gonna make a bit of a fail-safe overflow drain here, and see if we can dry up some of this water, because there's a lot and that's not good. This is one of those experiences or mistakes that you can learn from, so I consider myself lucky. It's still not gonna fit in there, I don't think. So it looks like we may have to cut this here and re-silicone it over there, and then put the fail-safe drain on this side behind here. That could be the go. I'm not looking forward to trying to pry that off. I know it's a bit of a rogue way, but literally there was no other way to get this glass off successfully. So we'll silicone it all back together, but you just gotta be real careful because some of this glass is ridiculously sharp. You just put your bulkhead on there. Sometimes it's good to silicone in there, but don't actually, oh, we actually do have silicone. Alrighty, so we got some black silicone and we're gonna silicone a piece of glass over that hole. Can't actually see what I'm doing here, but just assuming that's working. The more the merrier with the silicone department. The bulkhead on there, we'll put the elbow on there. The best thing to do is to use Teflon, but as this isn't a high pressure leak, I'm not too worried about it. You can put this on there as well. That'll nice and tight. Down here, we've got a little elbow. I think what we'll try to do is spin it out here. Put the elbow there. And then we've got an extra extension, which is gonna go through my sliding door. Easy as. And then that. Still close the door. And then we have our drain if it ever overflows, which kind of sucks because it means mice and whatever can get in there, but that's going to be the best way for now. And there's not too many things in my fish room that would be appealing to mice in the first place, so I don't see why they would go in there, but that solves one problem. Okay, so it's been a super long time. I kind of left this project and moved on to some other things in the meantime and kind of ended up forgetting about it. But I walked past here the other day, saw my silicone gun sitting in there, I'm like, what the heck, have I not finished this paint? And I looked in and I haven't, so I went to Bunnings and bought 2 tubes of silicone and a Trojan, another glass cutter. So I've got one of these already, it is floating around here I think. We're going to cut some more glass panels today. Finally complete the fish room. If this isn't enough silicone to finish this project, I'm gonna be sad and broke, because I kid you not, these are like $20 each. Silicone is not cheap. You can obviously get cheaper silicone. I just know this silicone works. I've used this on sealing up big aquariums before and I've used this to build aquariums. So this stuff works. If you're wondering why the audio is different, my microphones have completely crapped themselves and they no longer work, so for the duration of this video there will be some good moments where there is good audio and there'll be a lot of bad moments where there's some terrible audio, so bear with me. I have to deal with it too. I will be getting some new microphones at some point. Alrighty, so something super exciting has happened today. I rang up a couple of glass companies in my area to see if they could cut me some glass so I don't have to cut it myself. I know I told you guys I was going to do that and I did buy a glass cutter. And I have cut all of these other glass panels myself and I know exactly that, well, I know that it's freaking difficult and that I don't really want to do it. So I ended up finding a guy who was super nice and was quite reasonably priced, and I got him to cut me the remaining 4 pieces of glass. The benefit of that is they are super good quality glass. They're not some weird scrap glass from an old fish tank. Brand new glass, cut to the millimeter with fantastic accuracy, and it only cost me I think $60. I think each piece of glass was around $15 each. Be careful where you order your glass from or where you get it cut, because some people will charge you like $50 a panel, and it's just better off you cutting it yourself at that point. But $15 a piece is freaking amazing price for me, and far better than me cutting it for that price. I've finally finished dividing all of the tanks in the fish room. So technically the fish room is now complete. I know I've said that before, but it's literally complete. Like, I'm not doing anything more. I don't need to get any more parts to fill up these aquariums. And we only use 1 tube of silicone. In my mind, I thought we were going to use another tube, so I got 2. But that's okay because it's always good to have silicone around. I thought I was going to use way more because every time I buy as much as I think I need, I always need more silicone. So what we've got here is 5mm or 6mm thick glass. I think it's 5mm, and it's about 500 by 400. I think that I probably could have gotten away with dividing all of the aquariums in the room twice, which means I'm going to have like an extra 4 aquariums, which would have been really nice. But obviously it's too late now. We can always do it in the future, but it's going to be an absolute pain having to rip out this middle divider, and I think it's probably impossible and definitely not worth doing. If you want to add more aquariums later, we're just going to have to, you know, continue that way or build some racks to the left. But I think for now this is definitely enough aquariums for me to start breeding to make a little bit of money and for content wise, I guess. But yeah, I can't believe it. We got another 6 tanks ready to go, and now we're just gonna wait around, I think, 24 hours for these tanks, for the silicone to cure and the tanks to be ready to fill up. Oh, okay, never mind. Allow for to cure for 7 days prior to usage. I've done it before and not left it 7 days, and it's been completely fine. I usually just leave it 24 hours to dry. It's probably best to leave it for 7 days, but I don't have 7 days because I'd like to move my whip tails across. These ones I'll probably be able to leave for, you know, a week. I don't really need them at the moment, but as soon as I need them, I'll probably just start filling them up. But yeah, that's the end of the fish room build, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this build. It's been a bit of bittersweet for me, because it's been difficult to do by myself, but it's also been really enjoyable and quite fun to do as well. And yeah, catch you guys in the next one.